Recap of Chad Powers Season 1 Episode 1 titled, First Quarter, Spoilers Ahead. Chad Powers S1E1, First Quarter, Recap and Highlights. Opening. Rose Bowl Disaster. The episode opens in the climactic final moments of a major college football game. Russ Holiday is about to cross the goal line and win it all. But at the last second, he drops the ball. His foot is in the end zone, but the ball is not. He celebrates prematurely, only to realize he hasn't scored. In the disastrous fallout, Russ loses his composure. He confronts a fan or parents of a fan on the sideline. In the process, he accidentally pushes over a man and a child in a wheelchair, a boy with cancer. The incident becomes notorious. That night, the scandal escalates. Media, public outrage, and Russ's image collapse. He is ostracized, his football dreams seem over. 8 years later, a fallen star. Flash forward 8 years. Russ Holiday is living a very different life. He's separated from the public spotlight, grappling with regret, and attempting to regain purpose. He works with his father, Mike Holiday, who is a prosthetics makeup artist in Hollywood. Russ helps deliver prosthetic masks makeup as part of his father's business. One day, while doing a delivery to a film lot, Russ passes by a large billboard featuring Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Williams. The visual triggers something inside him, the idea that he could disguise himself and reinvent himself. The idea, becoming Chad Powers. Inspired, Russ takes materials from his father's prosthetic shop to build a disguise, wig, facial prosthetics, makeup, etc. He plans to adopt a new identity, Chad Powers, so he can try out again for football without the baggage of Russ Holiday's reputation. Meanwhile, the South Georgia Catfish college football team is holding open tryouts. They lost their top 2 quarterbacks to transfers, so they're looking for new talent. Russ sees opportunity. If he can pass as Chad Powers, walk on, and perform, he might reclaim some of his worth and have a comeback. Mascot, tryouts and conflict. Russ's disguise is not perfect. He tries to avoid situations that could expose him, showers, close scrutiny, getting too real. At the tryout site, Russ as Chad bumps into Danny, the team's mascot. Danny initially mistakes him for a threat, thinking he's an intruder, but they eventually connect. Danny becomes an early ally. He helps Russ with the disguise, offering tips, adjusting his prosthetics, and encouraging him. Also in the tryout environment, Ricky Hudson, assistant coach, and daughter of head coach Jake Hudson, observes Chad, i.e. Russ, with suspicion. She senses something is off with Chad Powers, his weirdness, inconsistencies, and odd behavior. The coaching staff is under pressure from Trisha, boosters, finances, to improve the team. Open tryouts are meant to produce standout talent. Meanwhile, assistant coach Dobbs is involved in selection and evaluates the incoming walk-ons. Breakthrough and tension. Russ as Chad struggles early. His prosthetics slip, he falters, he hesitates. He even considers quitting. The ruse seems too fragile. But Danny pushes him to persist. Stay. Show what Chad Powers is made of. That encouragement helps Russ regain composure and start making plays. He begins to demonstrate athletic skill and spark. The coaches are impressed but puzzled. Chad seems inconsistent, odd, perhaps showing signs of a head injury, to explain his weird behavior. They're unsure whether to trust or reject him. At one point, Russ as Chad is invited by Coach Hudson to his office. The coach asks why Chad plays football. Russ, struggling, says, "I don't know who I am without it." This emotional admission resonates. Coach Hudson says, he can help solve the paperwork, the registration problem. Russ need not worry about that now. Closing and hooks for future. The episode closes with Chad Powers, Russ in disguise, accepted as a walk-on, given approval to proceed as long as he can produce registration documents, birth certificate, transcripts, etc. But the tension remains. Russ must now continue to maintain the disguise under pressure, prove himself on the field, and manage suspicion, identity, and the cost of hiding. The stage is set. A disgraced former star disguised as an underdog, trying to redeem himself under a false name, with allies and adversaries already in place. If you liked it, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Recap of Chad Powers, Season 1, Episode 2 Inches Second Quarter. Chad Powers S1E2, Second Quarter, recap and speculative highlights. Setup. New challenges and identity tensions. The episode opens shortly after the events of Episode 1. Russ Holiday, disguised as Chad Powers, has been accepted as a walk-on at South Georgia Catfish. But now, the harder part begins, competing for the starting quarterback position and maintaining his disguise under pressure. Early scenes show Russ as Chad arriving at the Catfish's Lake House coach's retreat where incoming players and staff gather for an informal barbecue, team bonding event hosted by Coach Hudson and his family. This gathering serves both social and athletic evaluation purposes. Russ is nervous. In prosthetics and disguise, he must conceal his thinning mask edges, avoid unmasking in close conversation, and deflect any questions about background paperwork or identity. Tryouts and competition heat up. On the field, Chad is pitted directly against other quarterback hopefuls. The coaches run through drills, passing, footwork, game simulation, reading defenses. Chad shows flashes of raw talent and instinct, but stumbles in some timed drills due to tension or minor slip in disguise. Danny, the mascot, Russ's secret helper, continues to assist Chad behind the scenes, touching up makeup, adjusting wig, helping him slip away when suspected, offering quiet encouragement. Danny becomes a critical ally in maintaining the illusion. Meanwhile, assistant coach Ricky Hudson is shown scrutinizing Chad's performance. She senses that there's something off, inconsistencies in his style, an odd accent slip, or perhaps body language that betrays experience. Her suspicion increases gradually, though she does not yet act on it openly. The coaches hold private meetings. Coach Bird and Coach Dobbs debate Chad's potential, considering his raw abilities but questioning his unknown past or lack of established credentials. Identity strain and personal conflict. Away from the field, Russ, as Chad, struggles in personal moments. He accidentally drops a slip of paper, nearly revealing something, or someone asks about his hometown, transcripts, or prior stats, topics Russ must dodge with humor or misdirection. At the Lake House barbecue, Chad mingles with players, staff, and boosters. Some players tease him as new guy, and Chad must act natural, deflect banter, and avoid revealing too much. A close call might involve him being asked about his school era, where he played, or how he trained, questions he must answer vaguely. He also interacts briefly with Ricky in a more personal exchange, perhaps they talk about football, life goals, or what drew them to the game. The interaction is friendly but edged with tension, as Russ wonders how much Ricky suspects. Coaching and strategy decisions. The staff holds strategy sessions. They review film of Chad's drills, compare him to existing QBs, and debate giving him more reps. Some coaches favor giving the walk-on a chance, others warn of risk. Chad is asked to run a scrimmage play during the barbecue event in front of key boosters and alumni. It's a low-stakes play, but public. Chad's performance here is critical. If he fails badly, it could cast suspicion or derail his candidacy. Russ, as Chad, gives the play his best, connecting with a wide receiver, showing pocket awareness, and making a throw under pressure. It isn't perfect but impressive for a walk-on. The crowd's reaction is cautiously optimistic. Conflict and crisis. During the barbecue, someone, perhaps a booster or journalist, casually mentions Chad Powers' background, asking, "Which college did you come from?" Or, "Hometown." This creates an awkward moment. Chad stammers, gives a vague answer, and quickly changes topics. At the same event, Russ's father Mike Holiday may call or visit, or dispatch someone, pressuring Russ to ensure things are going well. Russ must accept the check-in call without drawing suspicion. Doing so while pretending to be Chad adds internal stress. A side subplot. Another QB hopeful tries to test Chad's limits, goading him in front of others. They push him physically or verbally, trying to fluster him. Chad nearly loses composure but manages to respond with wit and resolve. Cliffhanger and setup for Episode 3. At the end, Chad is called into Coach Hudson's private office. The coach commends his bravery, creativity, and solid play in the scrimmage. He tells Chad he has earned some trust, and the school will fast-track verifying his eligibility paperwork. However, he cautions that scrutiny is coming, and Chad must keep his head down and work harder. Meanwhile, Ricky, after seeing Chad perform, has a lingering look, pensive and suspicious. She wonders if there is more to him than meets the eye. The final shot might show Russ alone in a locker room or dark corridor, touching his prosthetic makeup, staring at himself in a mirror, wrestling with doubt. How long can I keep this up before someone sees through me? Recap of Chad Powers Season 1, Episode 3, titled, Third Quarter, Spoilers Ahead. Third Quarter, Recap and Key Beats. Opening and Sideline Tension. The episode opens with Russ Holiday, in disguise as Chad Powers, running through the woods while listening to audio from his failed Rose Bowl game, a reminder of how deeply the past still haunts him. Then we cut to the Catfish's home opener game against Ole Miss. Chad is sidelined as backup, holding a cup for Jerry during a break, watching the team struggle on the field. On the sidelines, Chad and Ricky Hudson bond. Ricky shares ideas about play strategies and frustrations with how she is undervalued by the coaching staff. Their conversation reveals deeper respect, and hints at mutual understanding. Coaching tension and injuries. The game grows tougher. The Catfish are trailing. Jerry, the starting quarterback, is inconsistent, struggling under pressure. Ricky presses Coach Hudson to put Chad in, arguing Chad has better instincts and deserves a chance. But Hudson resists, partly out of fear that Chad may fail, partly due to loyalty to Jerry. In the midst of that, the team loses headset communications. The broadcast radio system goes down, delaying the start of the fourth quarter. This breakdown gives Ricky and Chad extra time to argue their case. Turning point. Chad gets in. In a dramatic twist, Danny the mascot intervenes. He deliberately trips Jerry, causing him to get injured and unable to continue. This forces Coach Hudson's hand. He must put Chad into the game. Once Chad is in, he leads a drive down the field, showing poise and determination. The game becomes his proving ground. With little time and pressure mounting, Chad makes a bold call. Ignoring the coach's original play, he audibles to Ricky's play, the one she had advocated earlier. The play succeeds. The Catfish clinch a comeback win. Aftermath and emotional beats. The crowd erupts. Chad's teammates rally around him. But rather than celebrating on the field, Chad breaks away to find Ricky. Their eye contact and silent acknowledgement speaks volumes, he credits her. Meanwhile, coaches, staff, and boosters react with shock and awe. The victory demands new respect for Chad, and new questions about identity, trust, and who Chad Powers really is. Themes and character development, redemption and second chance. Russ finally gets his moment. The episode is about proving he still has what it takes. Trust and respect. Ricky is validated. Her coaching instincts, often ignored, lead to victory. Their bond deepens. Risk and identity. Chad's decision to override coaching calls shows confidence, but also raises risk. If he fails, exposure is more dangerous. Power dynamics. Coach Hudson's resistance to change, Ricky's struggle as a female coach and coach's daughter, and Chad's outsider status all collide. If you liked it, subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Recap of Chad Powers, Season 1, Episode 4, Fourth Quarter, in English. Major spoilers ahead. Setup and context. Episode title, Fourth Quarter, Season 1, Episode 4. The show follows Russ Holiday, who assumes the identity of Chad Powers via prosthetics disguise as he tries to resurrect his football career with the small college team the South Georgia Catfish. In this episode, the team goes on the road for an away game. Russ, as Chad, and his mascot buddy Danny must manage a major crisis with Russ's disguised prosthetics, while interpersonal tensions build. Recap plot summary. The road trip begins. The episode opens with the Catfish team boarding the bus for an away game in Tennessee. Coach Jake Hudson sits next to Russ, still disguised as Chad, and asks him about his request to room with Danny, the mascot. This sparks Russ's first lie of the episode. He says that he and Danny are related. The attempt at cover story is awkward and sets the tone. Meanwhile, Ricky, Coach Hudson's daughter and an offensive assistant, remains in the background. Her unresolved conflict with her father from the previous episodes lingers. Russ notices this. The prosthetic glue crisis. During the bus ride or at the hotel check-in, the team realizes a major problem. They are out of glue needed to attach Russ's prosthetic mask for his Chad persona. Without the mask, his disguise fails. This creates immediate pressure. Bed checks at 11 p.m. mean they must have everything in order or face being excluded from the game. Russ and Danny decide to sneak out of the hotel trip to track down the special adhesive. Their mission includes car theft. They take the cheerleader Sasha's car keys and a frantic shopping run to a Spirit Halloween store. At the store they find one last bottle of glue, but someone else, a dog mascoted fan, is using it. Danny distracts him, steals the glue and they try to leave. The theft, injury in hospital. As they attempt to leave, they discover the Catfish branded car has been broken into. The thief stole the prosthetic mask pieces and Danny's AirPods too. Russ's attempt to chase leads to him cutting his hand on glass. They pursue the thief's location, trace the tracker, and eventually end up at a house where they pick up bits of mask pieces from the lawn driveway. Russ is bleeding, hurt, but still trying to solve the crisis. At the hospital ER, Russ is forced into confrontation with his own ego. He belittles Danny, accusing him of only being helpful because he's nothing without Chad. Danny walks away, frustrated. Russ must face his insecurities. Meanwhile, Russ steals medical glue adhesive from the hospital to use for the mask. Night before game, reconciliation and game day. Back at the hotel, Ricky bumps into Russ just as he's returning from his escapade. She recognizes or nearly recognizes him. They share a brief but meaningful interaction where he gives her advice about reconciling with her father. This encounter hints that Ricky may start to suspect Russ's double life. Russ, Danny reconcile. Danny covers for Russ during the bed check by pretending to be Chad, allowing Russ to finish the mask. They work together overnight to assemble the prosthetic and restore the Chad persona. Their teamwork succeeds. On game day, the Catfish win the match and Russ performs impressively under the mask. After the game, on the return bus, Ricky uses her phone to search for Russ Holiday online and discovers he'd vanished from the spotlight earlier, suggesting she might uncover Russ's secret. The episode ends on this tip. Themes and observations. Mask and identity. Russ is physically wearing a mask prosthetic to become Chad Powers. But emotionally the mask is beginning to crack. His ego, secrets, and past are leaking through. Friendship and teamwork. Initially Russ dismisses Danny, but by the end acknowledges Danny's value, so there's character growth in their partnership. Secrets and suspicion. Ricky's interaction and her online sleuthing suggest the secret identity storyline may become a major arc. The mask may not hold forever. Pressures behind the performance. The prosthetic glue crisis is comedic but symbolic. The foundation glue behind Russ's new persona is weak and unreliable, just like his motivations and disguise. Comedy plus heart. The episode blends farcical elements, glue shortage, stolen car, dog mascot showdown, with emotional ones, Russ's wounded ego, Danny's frustration, Ricky's father conflict. My take, summary thoughts. Episode 4 is perhaps the funniest and most singular in the season so far. It leans heavily into comedy and the road trip gone wrong trope, but within that it pushes forward important character arcs. Russ's vulnerability, his dependence on Danny, and the cracks in the Chad facade become very clear. Ricky's potential suspicion adds future tension. And the Catfish team trip context gives a backdrop that's simultaneously silly and revealing. While the episode might feel lighter on football action, the game happens but most time is spent off-field. It is rich in character and sets up major arcs for the rest of the season. If you enjoy shows that mix sports, identity, disguise and heart, this episode is a highlight. Recap of Chad Powers, Season 1, Episode 5, 5th quarter, spoilers ahead. Basic setup. Episode title, 5th quarter, Season 1, Episode 5. At this point, the team, the South Georgia Catfish, is undefeated 5-0, and the spotlight is intensifying on Russ Holiday pretending to be Chad Powers and his disguise identity crisis. The episode grapples with the rising fame, the cracks in the masquerade, and the personal stakes behind the comedy. Recap plot summary. Rise to fame and spotlight. The episode opens with the Catfish now 5-0 and the national media starting to take real notice of Chad Powers. ESPN wants to feature him on College Game Day. Russ, as Chad, is propelled into the role of superstar, while behind the scenes the fragility of his disguise and his identity issues begin to surface. Media appearance and identity pressure. An interview with ESPN becomes a major plot point. The team's PR wants a controlled, clean image at the coach's lake house with Ricky and the coach's family, but Russ finds himself awkward and unfiltered. His remarks, e.g., referencing Benjamin Franklin and football, highlight how poorly the persona fits him. Russ is forced to present Chad Powers live in ultra-high definition for the segment, meaning his prosthetic disguise must hold up under scrutiny. The mask slipping, voice wavering, and his comfort level begin to crack. Personal conflict in Masquerade Cracks. Russ's relationship with Ricky, Coach Hudson's daughter, deepens. He begins to let down his guard, and the risk of his real identity, Russ Holiday, being uncovered grows. A scene where he meets her after a night out shows his internal conflict between his real self and the persona. Danny, the mascot and Russ's ally, is increasingly anxious about the sustainability of the ruse. Russ's decision to fully become Chad Powers, without Russ Holiday overshadowing him, terrifies Danny. This reflects a major turning point. Russ's ego and identity crisis meet real jeopardy. Climax and fallout. During the college game day segment filming, tensions explode. The coach's wife, Wendy, turns up. Russ realizes she was the woman he slept with the previous night, and Coach Hudson labels Russ Holiday a cancer in the team's recruiting history. Russ must sit in his Chad disguise, absorbing the insult silently. The episode ends with Ricky using her phone and stumbling on Russ Holiday, the original athlete name, hinting she's starting to piece together Russ Chad's secret. The mask may not hold up once suspicion is aroused. Themes and observations. Identity and masking. The core of the episode revolves around Russ's internal split, Russ Holiday versus Chad Powers. His prosthetic mask is metaphorical for the identity he's abandoned and the one he pretends to be. Fame and vulnerability. The 5-0 team record should bring joy, but for Russ it brings more pressure. Being in the spotlight magnifies every weakness. Authenticity versus performance. Russ's attempt to present a perfect athlete persona for media clashes with his genuine self, leading to discomfort and missteps. Suspicion and consequence. Ricky's growing awareness serves as a ticking clock. Hidden identities may work for a bit, but exposure looms. Comedy and drama blend. While the show is comedic, awkward interviews, mascot hijinks, this episode leans more into the dramatic risk, showing that beneath the laughs there's real character tension. My take, summary thoughts. Episode 5 of Chad Powers is a pivotal chapter. It takes the fun, absurd setup of a masked walk-on quarterback and forces the protagonist to deal with real consequences: fame, media scrutiny, identity collapse, and the risk of exposure. The comedic elements, awkward interviews, masked school star, costume problems, are still present, but the character work deepens. Russ's ego, fear, denial and ambition are all in conflict. For viewers, this episode might feel like a shift. Less direct football action, more internal drama and external pressure. But it works. The tension around the mask, the looming reveal, and the cracks in Russ's persona give the series more emotional weight. If you liked it, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more recaps like this. Recap of Chad Powers Season 1 Episode 6 titled, Sixth Quarter, and What to Expect. Unfortunately, a full detailed scene-by-scene recap is not yet available from reliable sources. Check mark what we know. This episode is the season finale of Season 1, 6 episodes total. The official synopsis. On the eve of the biggest game of the season, the truth about Chad Powers threatens to emerge. Episode release date: October 28, 2025, US, on Hulu. Key story arcs leading into this episode include Russ Holiday using the alias, Chad Powers, to revive his college football career. The South Georgia Catfish team having success, undefeated run, which raises the stakes for Russ Chad. A major pending reveal of Russ's double identity and the risk of exposure. Warning: what we don't yet have. A full detailed breakdown of what exactly happens in the episode, scene by scene, character by character. Verified specifics of how all loose threads resolve or leave unresolved by the end. Reliable quotes are major scene descriptions beyond general expectations. Magnifying glass what to expect based on build-up. Based on credible sources, here are major likely events themes in episode 6. The Catfish's biggest game of the season, everything hinges on performance, but also on Russ Chad's secret being uncovered. Coach Jake Hudson's health or crisis possibly following the heart attack scare in episode 5 playing a key role. Sources note Coach Hudson had a major incident. Closing parenthesis. Russ Chad facing the consequences of his double life, either exposure, confession, or major confrontation. Emotional, career, and personal stakes merging. Sport drama plus identity drama plus possibly relationship arcs with Ricky, Wendy, Sean culminating. A finale that mixes comedy, since the show is a sports comedy, with emotional payoff and cliffhanger elements. One source says the finale ends with major unanswered questions to set up potential season 2. Bullseye. My summary thoughts. While I don't have the full recap yet, here's what I'd emphasize if you were preparing a video YouTube recap. Set the scene. Russ's secret alias, the undefeated streak, the countdown to the 6th quarter game. Highlight the tension. Russ Chad's secret at risk, Jake's health crisis, team pressure mounting. Focus on the dual conflict, success on the field versus exposure off the field. Emphasize the finale's purpose, wrap up key arcs, deliver payoffs, and leave enough unresolved to hint at what's next. Close by noting the what happens next, since sources indicate the finale leaves some threads open for a potential season 2. If you enjoyed this recap, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more movie recaps and analysis like this.